Gege Akutami, I apologize. I didn't think you were capable of going that far. My brothers and sisters, this is the most mental chapter of JJK. Saying this was crazy is an understatement. This was full on lobotomy. In chapter 267 of Jujutsu Kaisen, after 4 years of absence, after 141 chapters, Nobara Kugisaki has returned to the series in all of her glory. And I have to admit, in my initial reaction to this chapter, it was not really all that positive because the expectation of her return and the execution of what Nobara achieved in this chapter is like straight from the community fan theories. An eye patch Nobara, Sukuna soul resonance, Nobara dealing a huge blow to Sukuna, and using the last finger is one-to-one with many people's theories about Nobara's return. 100% folks are about to call out Gege for writing Nobara back at the last second, like this would be some Disney Kaisen type beat that we're on. And on the other hand, folks who would call it bad before might switch up and call Gege the GOAT. Again, this is a crazy timeline that we're living in. We switching up like Mahoraga adapts. We have less than 5 chapters left and Gege made a fan theory and willed it into existence. But I have to admit it is a pretty good feeling knowing that Nobara is alive and well and kicking ass. And it does actually make sense that she can come back because Nobara was never really confirmed to be dead or alive. Well, except for that one time Gege said that she was dead, but never believe him. But besides that, I like how folks use the Nita panel as evidence for her return because even Nita doubts Nobara would have lived, but he let Yuji and the reader know that her chances of returning are not 0. It's just considering Yuji's reaction after Megami was telling him about Kugisaki really makes it seem like she was gone, and the 140 plus chapters of no news about her, multiple panels of her remembered along with dead people did not help either, yet she could still return. Not even considering agenda, if an author mentions a character's chances of survival or a certain plot point and gives the character and the reader hope of their survival, then it's natural to expect that we at least would get some sort of confirmation on their status or a payoff for that plot point. It's like a Chekhov's gun sort of situation, a narrative principle where the author would set something up and it would be revealed later in the story. And a writer won't just leave something like this and not deliver on it, at least a good writer won't. And this chapter was Gege's delivery. But Nobara wasn't the only highlight of this chapter, because today it seems our sorcerers have finally defeated Sukuna, and before we cut to how they actually take him down, we get a flashback of Gojo and Yuta doing their body switch training. Gojo is the one who held Sukuna's final finger, just like Sukuna predicted to prevent Yuji's execution. But when Yuta asks to use Sukuna's finger in order to copy the curse technique and utilize Sukuna's shrine, Gojo points out that the finger alone is not enough to analyze the shrine. Even Yuta agrees that in addition to copy Inumaki's cursed speech, he had to receive more input and help from Inumaki in order to master it. Even if they were to let Rika eat and copy the curse technique from the finger, Gojo believes that it is far too important to keep their connection to Sukuna, as we're going to see later when Nobara returns and does something very interesting. But now Yuta mentions his conditions for the copy curse technique, and I must say it is quite a lot. Whatever translation said that Yuta's copy was unconditional was a complete lie, because there is quite a bit that Yuta has to go through. When Yuta wants to use the copy curse technique, he must make Rika consume a part of the subject's body. The quantity and what part of the body that needs to be consumed depends on the subject that he's copying from and the number of times that he's going to use the technique. He dumbs it down to think that if I want to copy a strong technique, then the more lethal body part that I have to take. And after he takes the body part, then he will use binding vows to limit the curse technique's use. However, when the target of copy regenerates the part of the body that was lost with reverse curse technique, then from that point on, the curse technique condition can no longer be fulfilled and the copy becomes useless. And that's a pretty serious weakness, but now we finally understand why Hana and and Inumaki are missing their arms. Yuta just assumed that they could not heal with reverse curse technique anyway, and he was pretty forward about using their severed limbs to copy their curse techniques. Yuta even took Charles' rib bone in order to use clairvoyance. Yuta understands that there is only a certain amount of these things in this info that he can let Yuji know. However, he's now sure that Yuji has Sukuna's shrine curse technique since Gojo observed it with his 6 eyes. And at some point, it's not Sukuna's finger that Rika ate, it was Yuji's finger. That's how Yuta got shrine. Now, when we transition to the Nobara stuff, it gets a little crazy because with the way Utsuhime and Gakuganji talk about her, Gakuganji wonders how can Nobara actually even pierce a special grade cursed object? Even Gojo's Limitless had no effect, or any sort of force or Jujutsu cannot destroy the cursed finger because Sukuna's fingers are indestructible as a special grade cursed object. However, by making a binding vow, yes, a binding vow, where instead of destroying the cursed object, she will instead focus on landing and applying the curse technique effect. And of course, Nobara, the real queen of curses, is back in all her glory. The Nobara Copra is one. She is back in action and she uses her straw doll technique Resonance to directly damage Sukuna's soul. So the theories were just so strong, so good, that Gege had to make it real. Sukuna freaks out. Moments ago, he was just about to expand his domain, but just in time, bro gets jumped by Nobara out of nowhere. The funniest part of her return is how her attitude is so confident, like she was never gone in the first place. She even references how Yuji came back before Goodwill. Right on time, Resonance breaks Sukuna's guard. He can no longer expand his domain, and he was struck by the full onslaught of Sukuna's soul dismantle short hit. Yuji beats the brakes out of Sukuna. Like bro is throwing up his fingers, he's getting tossed all over the place. However, Sukuna still has fight left in him and he retaliates, even as he's getting eviscerated by Yuji's strikes. Sukuna actually doubts Yuji's strength because for some reason, he thinks that Yuji's out of options, as domain expansion requires too much cursed energy to heal with reverse curse technique. But little does Sukuna know that this is Yuji's shonen protagonist moment, and everything Sukuna is thinking and spouting is just useless villain yapping. Sukuna is slammed by a divergent fist, second impact, and before the final blow, Yuji just lets him know, Sukuna, it's time we end this cycle of curses. Unk is hit with a final black flash. It looks like this one is it. This black flash hit straight through Sukuna's soul. Eyes rolled up, chronically bleeding, mouth agape, screaming, throwing up, crashing out. Sukuna is cooked. Sorcery's strongest, outdone, outwitted, outmaneuvered by actual teenagers. You gotta love to see it. The editor's note brought out that this is the end of a long battle, and thus ends the chronicle of the Shinjuku Showdown saga. Hands down the craziest JJK arc of all time. And I could not think of a crazier way to end it. And well, now that Nobara's back, how are we actually feeling? Hyped? Shocked? Scared? Well, I think considering the manner of her return, no matter what anyone says or thinks, Nobara coming back in this way is very convenient, it's predictable, and it's very last minute. When I say predictable, I mean that she was introduced in the exact way that many of us theorized. Fans basically drew out this panel before anyone even saw this chapter. Hell, before we even knew about this last Sukuna finger, it was a common theory that Soul Resonance somehow might be used against Sukuna, but nonetheless, I did not think she would come back. But really, ever since the last finger was revealed, there's not really much else to do besides take advantage of Nobara's resonance. Nobara coming back is actually a really cool touch and gave the sorcerers a huge advantage. But many people have a problem with Nobara coming back at the very end. I mean, we only have like 4 chapters left. She is quite literally a deus ex machina, an actual plot device to push Itadori Yuji forward. And the more you think about that, the more you'll find that there is a good and a bad side to it. Now, Nobara's death did in effect help Yuji's character to grow. Even story-wise, Yuji losing her just added to his suffering as a Jujutsu sorcerer, but he could never stop moving like Todo says. Nobara has a strong technique, but she's not really a strong sorcerer, especially since it's confirmed that she woke up 30 minutes ago. She's still not strong enough for the Koen game settings, and hell, Nanami didn't even think she was ready for Shibuya. So her character's purpose was to push Yuji's character growth forward through her loss, stay absent for about 4 years in real time. In the manga, it's been about a couple months. She's neither dead nor alive, then come back at the very end to serve as a Deus Ex Machina versus Sukuna. I believe that Gege set this up for a long time coming, but it is so incredibly convenient for her character to be here and basically save Yuji at the 11th hour. So her role isn't particularly that difficult, but in effect, she had a huge impact on the battle, considering she just joined in last minute. If you look at it like the sorcerers have to use whatever strategy, whatever they can in order to defeat Sukuna, then this worked out really well. This also reminds Yuji that he is not alone. In fact, it's like their Gojo sensei warned it. No one else would be left alone anymore. Well, maybe except Hikari, who knows what he's doing. But for real, it's a good thing that Nobara is back. That's just one less thing to worry about. I wouldn't just drop everything and say Gege can't write, because he obviously set all of this in motion and left her death kind of open-ended, and there was clearly a reason for Sukuna's last finger, but I really don't particularly enjoy the manner of Nobara's comeback, no matter how good it is that she actually is alive and well. It almost makes me think that her character served this single purpose. In 100 chapters, there legitimately is no way for her to develop or grow as a character. She simply was like a tool to keep Yuji going, both in her death and right now. She and Yuji just performed the ultimate tag team to defeat Sukuna. But what do you brothers and sisters think? Nobara's return comes with a ton of hype despite some obvious plot armor, but at the end of the day, she's back. Gege wrote her back in the story, and everything about her return makes sense, though it's obvious that some are happier than others about such a last-minute entrance. So brothers and sisters, let me know what you think. I look forward to see just how Gege continues with 4 remaining chapters, and I hope he did the best that he could. But I will see you amazing brothers and sisters in the next one. Bye-bye.